Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, my name is Haynes Brigman. I serve as the Deputy County Manager for Brunswick County. I am the what is referred to as our ARPA manager for the county, ARPA being the American Rescue Plan funds that have been distributed to local governments across the county. And so wanted to have a quick little Q&A session with everyone related to the nonprofit community assistance funding that our Board of Commissioners have authorized as part of the ARPA funds that the county received. So I've got a brief presentation here that I'll go through, a little quick slideshow, and then we'll open that up for a Q&A for everyone at the end. So if you'll just hold your questions to the end, we'll take questions via, I guess, raising hands and via audio, but you can also type those in the chat box as well if that's easier. We do have a hard stop today on the meeting at 2:30, so I know the meeting invite meeting invite went out to everyone from 1 p.m. to 3:30. We do not expect it to be here from 3:30. And if you could,
I can't hear you. What?
Do you think
you could please mute your, there you go. Thank you, guys. If you could please mute all of your audio so we don't have any feedback or background noises interfering, that'd be very helpful. And you guys can come off of mute whenever it's time to take that Q&A. But just have about an hour and a half to spend answering these questions with folks, and we hope it's beneficial to everyone. I will say that this is a new program for us. This is the first time the county has used a program like this or funding like this. So we've got questions as well, and it's really highly likely that we won't be able to answer everyone's questions today, but our intent is to jot those down, take note of those, and get folks those answers in a timely manner. We'll also be updating the county website where the RFP is listed for these funds. And so as we get those questions in, we'll provide those questions and as well as an answer on that website, so everybody can see all the questions that are asked and all the answers. And of course, county staff will also make themselves available to answer any questions as needed. So with that being said, we'll kind of dive right in real quick to the presentation itself. So just a real quick overview of the program. As mentioned in the request for proposals, we've allocated a pool of $750,000 to go to nonprofit organizations that are operating here in Brunswick County with two initiatives for that funding. The first is to help those organizations recover from the impacts of the pandemic, and as well as address any community challenges via improved service delivery through your organization that can help continue or further or advance a public purpose of the county. So there is no maximum or minimum award amount established with this grant. But with that being said, we expect to probably have 30 or 40 or 50 even organizations apply. And so we're going to be open-minded about how we make those awards. So obviously, if something is very impactful and can make a huge difference for the county, that's going to be weighted, and it's going to, there's the potential to award a large amount. But at the same time, if your organization can identify, smaller projects, a $5,000 award or something for a piece of equipment or something that may be beneficial, we want to hear about that too. And there's also no real limit to the number of applications that an organization can make. So again, if you've got a small project or program that may only be a few $1,000s, but maybe you've got a separate one that's a larger amount, then feel free to submit within the same application, but you can certainly delineate different projects and different project amounts. And so the awards are going to be made on or the awards are specific for one-time projects. And so what that means is we don't want to see these funds going to operational expenses like utilities or rent or salaries or any other normal function that your organization may have. We really want to see them go to one-time projects, whether that's a capital expense an equipment expense or facility upgrade or whatever that may be. Or maybe it's a one-time lump of sum monies that really boost and help a program get off the ground. But we want to emphasize that these are not going to be recurring funds that are available. It will be made in a one-time manner. And we don't expect, because of the ARPA funds, to be exhausted for this to continue in the future. So the funds are also expected to be made on a reimbursement basis, which means that the organization is going to have to complete the task or program or project, or at least provide the county with substantial completion of that for us to reimburse for the funds that may be awarded. So that's an important caveat. That's been a big question for a lot of folks that have asked. And right now, that's the standard that we are using. If there's any conflict or issues, we certainly want to work with the organizations to be able to accomplish their goals, as well as utilize the funds from the county in the best way possible. So again, feel free to reach out. If you have any issues with that, we'll be glad to talk offline or in a one-on-one basis about how you may be able to accomplish that. So Brunswick County has established what we refer to as an ARPA committee. So it consists of management staff, legal staff, finance staff, our grant management team. And what we will do is we will receive the applications. We will review those on a first come, first served basis. And so we will make a recommendation to our County Board of Commissioners for their final approval of the project. So our ARPA committee will review it, make sure it meets all the legal standards, make sure it either aligns with the priorities that we'll get to in a little bit, but we'll have several different factors that we'll look at each application on, and then we'll present those to the Board of Commissioners for their consideration and final approval. Once those are approved by the Board of Commissioners, our legal staff and finance team, our grants manager, will be working with each organization to develop a funding agreement. So each agreement is going to be different, and it's going to vary based on the sophistication of the project or the program and the award amount. So we don't have a template for that. And it's going to be, again, very specific to each organization based on the award. And speaking of a template, the county has not created a response template for this. We did a request for proposals without an application or a template to utilize. So it's really going to be incumbent upon each organization to determine how best to respond to the RFP. It could be very simple. We don't need anything elaborate. We don't want you out there spending a lot of resources or time or money putting a proposal together. As long as it has the information that's outlined in the RFP, that is sufficient. But again, each organization is going to be able to sort of paint the picture or make their justification for the use of the funds in their own unique way. So don't hesitate to get creative with it, but at the same time, we don't expect that you guys put a lot of time and certainly not a lot of money into that application. So in terms of how we prioritize the projects, it's outlined clearly in the RFP, but we really need to make sure and focus on the funds being used to address pandemic recovery. And so that's a broad statement that can mean a lot of different things. Every organization was likely impacted different by the impacts of the pandemic. So it could be maybe you pushed off a capital project during the pandemic due to a loss of revenues or uncertainty about revenues or loss of staff. So as you're building back and recovering from the pandemic, maybe your organization is looking at doing things that it had previously put off or were unable to do. So that's just one of many examples. So pandemic recovery is important, but it's also a very broad statement. So any way that you can show your organization is continuing to rebound and grow as a result of the pandemic is certainly going to be a viable use for these types of funds. And the second, they can be either and or, they don't have to be both. It can be one or the other. Obviously, projects that combine both pandemic recovery and the enhancement of a public purpose are going to weigh heavily for us. So when we say enhance a public purpose of the county, so that means that the use of the funds have to go to something that we, the county, as a local government, have the legal authority to do. And so there's several general, I wish I could point to like a general statute that had a list of all of the things that we can do, but our abilities are outlined in multiple state statutes. But generally you can think about just serving the public good, and a lot of it is related to education, public safety, public health, reaching areas of the community that may be disadvantaged. So any of those things, and that's what we're here today, and that's what we hope to answer for you guys in the future as well, is understanding what is that public purpose and what are some of how do those projects potentially align. So we also want to see projects that impact a large area or a large population of the county. So the larger the impact, the greater the weight for us. We also want to see projects that fill an existing service gap. So many of you guys have contractual relationships already with the county, or help the county provide services or fill those gaps that exist today anyway. And so any way that your organization can help expand upon that or grow that, anything related to innovation or expansion of your existing services, or how you can step in and fill a gap that the county has in our service providing, then that's going to be big for us, and that's going to rate heavily for us as well. The RFP also mentioned alignment with the county goals and focus areas. Those are listed on our county website, and those were approved by our Board of Commissioners. I actually have a slide next that I'll actually go over those goals and focus areas, but if you need to refer back to them, they are on our website. And so we want to see you build your application or your request around those goals. And if you can align them with one of those goals, again, that's a priority for us. And then the last two items are really sort of logistical in nature. We just want to make sure that we're providing the funds to an organization that has the ability and the resources to maintain their services ongoing into the community. It's not just a one-off thing, but that you also have the capacity to fulfill the obligations of the program or the project that you're outlining. So those will be very important for us. We don't expect those to be huge issues, but it's sort of just a safeguard for us to make sure we're issuing those funds to appropriate organizations. And last here, I have the list of the county goals and focus areas. So we've identified 5 relatively broad focus areas. Hopefully your organizations can find one of those that the project would help align and advance and bring forward for the county. And again, you have the website there at the bottom to be able to go and see those yourselves. But it is going to be very important for us to connect the projects or programs back to one of these or multiple of these goals that you see here. And I just have a summary of these. There's additional detail related to these focus areas on the website, but I just wanted to provide a general summary of what those would look like. So that's sort of, I have a ending slide that has some contact information and sort of a follow-up, but that's essentially the presentation. That is a summary of the program itself, and I'll go ahead and start and open it up to everyone for questions, and I'll see if I can't regulate this really good. But if you could raise your hand or just chime in, we'll go from there. I think we've got roughly 60 people in the room, so we'll try to make sure we get to everybody. All right, Carrie Higgins.
So our nonprofit was created in response to the pandemic. Would we be eligible for any of these funds? Or do you have to be in place before the pandemic started?
You do not have to be in place before the pandemic was started.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Sally Learn.
Yeah, Sally Learned with Brunswick Partnership for Housing. We're a nonprofit that serves homeless individuals and families in the county. And we also have a contract with the county at the moment to do outreach and case management for homeless individuals and families. So I have a couple questions. One is, when do these funds have to be expended by?
Yeah, great question. So we would like to see these funds spent by December 31st, 2024.
Okay. And do the funds have to be used if it's a capital project for a new project, or can it be used to reduce or eliminate debt on an existing capital project that's being completed?
It can be used for either of those situations.
Okay. I think that's all I got at the moment.
Thank you, Sally. All right, anybody else just want to chime in? Just unmute yourself and ask away.
Yes, my name is Joe Bryant. I know you say that it's very broad. We are from a historical perspective, the project item that we're working on, that broadness falls within that. Do you hear my question?
Yeah, what was that question again? I'm sorry, Mr. Bryant.
Our organization is doing some historical projects throughout Brunswick County. And so I noticed you said it was broad. Does broadness, the historical falls up under this broadness concept?
Are you talking like a historical preservation?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
It could potential. We can certainly dive deeper into that. That's obviously a very broad statement, but we can work with you offline and maybe set up a time to meet with you and talk with you about what exactly you're looking at for it. And we'll see if we can align it with one of the goals and focus areas.
That'll be great. Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
This is Beth Ann Cisco with WARM. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I have two quick questions. One is in the RFP, you list a number of things to attach or include with the proposal. And one of them is a current payroll register. What exactly do you need to meet that requirement?
I can get we'll work with you offline on exactly what we need on that. It's going to vary for some organizations depending upon the size and scope. So that's really more or less our need to make sure. And it's also going to be project dependent too. If you've got a small project, then we just want to make sure and verify to the best of our abilities that you've got the resources within your organization to accomplish your task or your goal of the funding. And so we obviously have a relationship with WARM already, and we can work with you offline on what exactly is needed. Because we already have that contractual relationship with you, it may look different than groups that we do not have that relationship already established with.
Okay, and then my last question is just because I'm the grant writer, and you know who WARM is. Would we fit better under growth and sustainability or healthy and safe community?
Probably both. You could probably tie to both of those.
Okay.
And Beth Ann, I actually would like to talk with you offline one-on-one if you want to about the ARPA funds and the intentions of the county.
Okay.
So with its relationship with WARM already. So I'd be glad to have that meeting with you or any member of your staff offline.
Okay, sounds good. I'll reach out.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Am I next?
Sure, go for it, Mr. McIntyre.
Okay, thank you. It's John McIntyre with Brunswick Search and Rescue. Could you clarify for me something you mentioned earlier about the possibility of having two needs one being a small, financially small issue, and the other one being somewhat larger, like a big piece of equipment. Would that require just two mentions in the same proposal or two separate proposals?
Yes, you would. I only want you to do one proposal. I want to keep this simple for everyone. So do
Okay.
one proposal, but make sure that you identify two separate projects or three or whatever it may be. Just allow us to be able to see that there are different projects that we can consider within the same application.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Cecilia Pierce.
Hi, I'm with a small nonprofit called To Share, and we reclaim furniture that's in good condition, pick it up from donors, and deliver it to folks in need. And some of that has come about. We started after Florence, but obviously with people having housing insecurity issues, some of that has come about related to the pandemic as well. And we have been doing some work in Brunswick County, primarily in the northern part, in the Leland area. So I'm wondering if the county would consider a proposal that only covers maybe the northern part or northern and central part versus the entire county. And also we're a fairly new nonprofit. So we have a 990, but we don't have kind of a full set of audited financials. So just wanted to see if we would even be eligible based on kind of where we are with our financial status as a newer nonprofit.
Yeah, so great questions. And to answer the first question is if you only have a specific service area within the county, that is fine. That doesn't preclude you, from being able to apply or be awarded the grant funding. So feel free to submit that. And as far as a lack of audited financial statements or whatnot, we can again work with you on a one-on-one basis to try to understand what you do have. Again, it just goes back to simply for us wanting to make sure that that we know we're providing the funds to an organization that's going to be able to come through on their request.
Okay, great.
All right, Diane Billard.
Good afternoon. I work with the Veterans Welcome Home and Resource Center in Little River. And because we are located in in South Carolina, I want to raise the issue because we do support Brunswick County. So I'm guessing that we can apply to support Brunswick County residents and make clear that we're differentiating between Brunswick County residents and then Horry County. Is that correct?
Yes, that we're definitely going to need to be able to draw that line between the two. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Bryant. All right, anybody else? Feel free to chime in.
Haynes, we did have a couple of questions from the chat. Mike Claxton asked, will these notes be available online? And we are recording this presentation.
Yeah, so very good question. So we are recording the video now. So if you or any of your peers or other employees need to see this and watch this, we'll post this video online on our website with the RFP. And again, like I mentioned at the beginning, we'll take note of all the questions and we'll get answers to those, and we'll provide those with the RFP as well so that everybody can see the questions and the answers that we've fielded so far.
And then John Callaghan asked, when will the RFP be issued and what is the deadline for submission?
Yep, great. So the RFP is actually already out and live. It can be found on our county website. If you hover over the resident tab and in the bottom right corner of the drop-down menu, there'll be a bid and RFP requests, and you can find the information about the RFP on the website there, all the details associated with it. So we're open to receiving applications as soon as possible. As far as how long, it's a first come, first serve. So it really depends upon the number of applications that we receive and the number of awards that the Board of Commissioners approve. So it's likely going to be roughly a 30-day process, I would think, from start to finish. So when we get a group of responses in, our ARPA committee will meet and review those, and then we will push those in a recommendation to our Board of Commissioners at a regularly scheduled meeting. And so once they grant that authorization, we'll then reach out to the organizations to begin to create that funding agreement with each of those organizations. So our goal is to get the money out there as fast as we can. We'd like to get this done in just a few months. And so realistically, though, we probably think all of the grant monies will be awarded within a 4 to 6 month period.
Hi, my name is Jim Hardy with Partners in Community. We are a organization that does collaborative work between different organizations within the county. One of my questions is, with us being the primary association, and we have different organizations that have different projects, but we could probably, all our projects would probably, be centered around the same thing. Would that be considered a priority in getting this grant?
Let's see, I hope I'm following you correctly, but yes, I think that, if you show multiple, projects or service delivery that you already provide, if you can combine that together, then yes, certainly that's going to be a benefit to the, when we review that application for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Haynes,
Yes.
this is Joe Bryan again. The question raised, how quick can we get on your calendar to have a conversation?
So good question. So I have both myself and a grant manager with the county named Jackson Jordan. We're going to be the primary points of contact. So you can see our email addresses here on the slide now. So jot those down. Jackson is our grant manager. So he's going to be sort of the hands-on person, really dealing with the paperwork side of things, making sure the application is submitted with all the information that is needed. He's also going to help me and guide me in making sure that, from a project and program standpoint, that it fits a public need, and then we'll kind of go from there. So I can be available, obviously dependent upon my schedule for either a phone call or an in-person meeting, and Jackson would be able to do the same.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have a question. I'm Simone Eckert with Lower Cape Fear Life Care. With this being a reimbursement program, can we submit a project that has already been done?
We do not want to go, we want to try to avoid distributing funds to projects that are already complete. But similar to the question that was answered earlier in terms of a capital project that may be in the process of working through, I guess the answer is we're open to considering anything, but we would like for it to be a new or different or expanded service that is not currently provided. But I also don't want to disqualify any of those because, again, it's going to be dependent upon the impacts of that project.
Thank you.
Ms. Whittington?
Yes, thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for this presentation. Just had a clarifying question. I know some of the community organizations that we work with in perpetuity are identifying opportunities to do water testing and under more of that health and safety bucket. Is that also covered?
Yes.
Water testing. Okay.
Absolutely. So that would fall in our growth and sustainability and healthy and safe community. So obviously from a water and infrastructure standpoint, that's key for us. But obviously water quality too, hones in on that health and safety aspect. So absolutely, you could draw to 2 different focus areas with that type of use.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Hyman,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Bené Robinson, and I am the president of Cedar Grove Improvement Association. And I am working with a coalition of other community leaders to help with the water disparities in African American communities. So I'm asking, because I just heard the lady that we actually work with, exactly what we need to look for or what we need to write the grant about. But are there some specific things, wordings that we need to use to address or to point out or make inferences to that looks that people that look at the grants, it
Yeah.
draws their attention to?
Yeah, I think just showing the impact. So what are the improved impacts that your project or program or the investment that you would make using these fundings, show those impacts. So show how they're going to, improve water quality or reach a disadvantaged portion of the population, or expand existing services. Any of those things are going to be positives for us when reviewing.
Okay, thank you so much.
Haynes, we did have a question in the chat from Diane Billard. She said, since this is a first come, first served opportunity, will the county update the available funding?
Yes, that's something we can certainly do. And it's interesting that it's a first come, first serve process, but at the same time, we won't have official approval until we go before our Board of Commissioners at one of their regularly scheduled meetings. So they meet on the 1st and 3rd Mondays of the month. So inevitably what's going to happen is we are going to review the ARPA committee are going to review the applications as they come in on a first come, first served basis. And we'll package probably a group of those projects together and take them to the board at one of their meetings and get them to approve those. So the idea behind the first come, first serve is we just wanted to go ahead and get these funds out into the community as quickly as we could. So we felt like the first come, first serve method was best for that. But certainly we can keep sort of a tally running of available funds that would be left as we start to make those awards. And Megan, thank you for reading the questions out. I've got my screen shared and got the PowerPoint pulled up, so it's very difficult to see those in the chat.
Absolutely. We actually had a couple more just come in. John Hacker asked, are fund requests submitted to the board as needed? Once approved, then a check cut for that amount?
So after the Board of Commissioners approve the project in their formal meetings, what would happen then is our finance department and our legal staff will work with those organizations to create what's called a funding agreement. So that funding agreement will be a contractual obligation between the county and the organization to talk about when, how, what the funds are going to be spent on. But as we mentioned, it's going to be a reimbursable expense for the organization. So you're going to have to work to complete that project and show the completion of that project. And then Brunswick County would then cut the check to that organization to reimburse them for that expense. But we would do that very quickly to help the organization.
And then another question, keep coming. Is the grant limited to organizations that are located and currently operate within Brunswick County?
Yes. So I think the next question is, if you have multiple projects or multiple requests within one submittal, is it likely that you get one approved and maybe not others? And that absolutely could happen. It's going to be very, very much based on the number of applications that we receive or requests that we receive. And we want to be able to distribute those to the best of our ability. So if you have multiple, it could be that one is approved and maybe others are not.
Could we put the email back up again? The email back up again.
Absolutely.
Okay, Brunswick County, North Carolina.gov. Okay, thank you.
All right, and again, we will be available to answer any questions. You know, I don't know if anyone else has any other questions that we can answer today, but I know a lot of one-on-one conversations will probably need to take place, and we want to make sure you guys know to feel comfortable in reaching out to us, and we don't want to exactly tell you what to do with the funds. We're looking to you guys to be creative and show us, the impacts that you guys can have on the community, because we rely on you guys so heavily. The work that each one of your organizations do is important to us, and so we're excited about getting this money out there to you, and we'll guide you and direct you the best that we can. But for us, it's more about just making sure it's a public purpose, and if it's something that we can legally spend the money on, we're going to work with you in every way that we can to get that money out there. All right, guys. Well, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I'll give one last opportunity for any other questions or comments, anything that I might be able to help with.
I see we have a hand raised from Lamicia Whittington. Do you have a question?
Oh, I think I just kept my hand up, so let me lower that. You answered it earlier. Thank you so much for your diligence.
I guess my last question, hey, many times county and municipality or city has a need assessment.
Thank you.
That they look at.
You want a cold one? Yeah, definitely. This is buffalo.
Okay, try it again. Many times a county organization, many years ago, I worked with United Way, and there was a need assessment in the community. Does the county have a need assessment that they know it's a need and have not discovered? They need someone to work with the program. Have the county done such type of work?
I'm not familiar with the county having that. I can certainly look into it. Myself, though, I'll have to say I've only been with the county about 1.5 years. So I don't know everything that we've done in the past, but I can certainly look into that.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's a gorgeous day in Brunswick County. It's definitely a Chamber of Commerce type of day with the sun out, and 74 degrees. Friday afternoon. Thank you guys for taking your time to join us today, and look forward to seeing all of your responses and considerations. And we're excited to get to work with you guys. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.